Local News 8 at 10. Local people, local news.
Good evening. The Rexburg community is in mourning tonight after the sudden death of a popular teacher. 56-year-old Larry Prescott taught art and photography at Madison High School. On its Facebook page, the district described Mr. Prescott as a kind and thoughtful person and a great friend and a coworker. Prescott's death happened around 6 last night when he and a 26-year-old BYU Idaho student were hiking in the Kiln Canyon area of the Limhi Range. According to the sheriff's office, Prescott started having trouble breathing and collapsed while hiking. Prescott's hiking partner, Thad Davis, hiked 5 hours to get cell service and call 911. Crews searched late into Saturday night for Prescott until their efforts were stopped by a high mountain snowstorm. The recovery resumed around 6 this morning, and efforts to get Prescott's body off the mountain were successful. As word of Mr. Prescott's death spread through town, condolences for his wife, also a teacher in Rexburg, started pouring in. On the district's Facebook page, Ashley Danielle Johnson wrote, "Such a good man who touched the lives of all he taught. He taught me some of the biggest life lessons without ever knowing. I will miss his wit and kind heart. My love goes out to his family." Holly Gifford also shared that thought, writing, "Larry was a gifted teacher and friend who had a great impact on our sons. We are so sad for his family." A GoFundMe page to help Mr. Scott's family has been set up. In just a few short hours, nearly $10,000 has been donated. If you'd like to donate, there is a link to it on our website, localnews8.com. And what makes this death even more devastating, it is the second tragedy Madison High School has had to cope with in the last 4 days. On Thursday, 16-year-old Monica Franco died of carbon monoxide poisoning, the result of a house fire. Investigators believe the fire started in a wood-burning stove. It was contained to the attic. The family will be doing a rosary for Monica tomorrow from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Flam Funeral Home in Rexburg. Funeral services are then set for Monica for Tuesday morning at 11. It will take place at Mary Immaculate in St. Anthony. A busy night in the weather department. Chris Nessman, we just talked to the Idaho Falls Police Department, who says there's trees down all over, power's out for some people. You've lost your radar. When can we expect this to stop?
Eventually. But tonight, yeah, it's going to be a pretty busy night. I wanted to show this too. This is sent in from Soda Springs, courtesy of Rob Trista Dexter. Trampoline, you see kind of behind that lady there, blew. We had wind gusts 60, couple places close to 70 miles an hour. So I actually had several reports of trampolines blowing. So thanks, Rob and Trista, for your photo, because it just shows, yeah, the winds, they're really strong. And like Chris also mentioned, we had radar and it just kind of goes away. So no, we're still getting the rain. We're going to get more rain tonight. But the National Weather Service actually said the transmitter for the Smithfield radar station cut out. So, I mean, with all this activity going on, it's kind of no wonder that it happened. But sure enough, so we're only getting stuff from the Salt Lake station as well as a little bit from the Missoula station. Everyone else, well, we're in the dark right now, but we do know that line is right through Teton County with those lightning bolts. And the other thing, too, still windy tonight. High wind warning for the Central Snake River Plain, wind advisory for everyone else. So what will Halloween look like? Well, first off, I'll say not nearly as bad as today, but we still have a few storms in the forecast. I'll have more on that coming up. Chris?
New tonight, a popular Idaho Falls Mexican restaurant destroyed by fire is now a pile of rubble. Crews spent the last couple of days tearing down the Los Albertos building. A fire broke out at the restaurant earlier this month, destroying the building. The owner told me the day after the fire that she believed the fire started in an electrical panel. Investigators haven't determined the actual cause, though. The owner says she will rebuild. With just 9 days until the election, people living in Preston will have to make a decision on a $1.5 million bond. The city has put this bond on the ballot to replace 2 main water lines that are leaking. Currently, the smaller line is already being fixed using city reserve funds. The larger line still needs some replacing. Most of the money for the project would come from a loan from the United States Department of Agriculture. Preston is also eligible for a $500,000 grant. The mayor says if the lines aren't replaced soon, there's a risk of water contamination. He also says the city would have to cut back on its water usage.
If the citizens want to continue to have city water and the quality of city water we have no choice but to replace these 2 water lines.
The mayor says it's important that people know this will not cost you any additional taxpayer dollars. In October, water rates were raised $10 as part of the city's new budget. That $10 is what's being used to repay the loans. The city is holding 2 open houses about the project next week. That information is on our website. That's localnews8.com. With 90 seats up for grabs in our state legislature, Democratic hopefuls are trying to lessen the Republican presence in the state house. One big race is the fight over House Minority Leader John Rush's seat in northern Idaho. In 2014, Rush beat his GOP opponent Mike Kingsley by just 48 votes. 48 votes. This year, Kingsley has come back with more money and more outside supporters. 37 of the incumbents are Republicans without opponents because they won the May primary. To the race for the White House now, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are trying to cover as much ground as possible as the campaign starts to wind down. Clinton was in Florida today, rushing from brunch to church to a rally and even a concert. The Democratic nominee is eager to change the narrative about the campaign following the renewed FBI investigation into her private email server.
There's a lot of noise and distraction, but it really comes down to what kind of future we want and who, as our president, can help us get there.
Clinton's rival, Donald Trump, spent his day in Las Vegas revving up the crowds. He used the day to turn the FBI investigation into an attack line. Trump's top campaign leader says this will help her boss.
And I think issues like this, where people are reminded that she has put the national security at risk just for her peevish personal reasons, is very troubling for her.
Several members of Congress have requested briefings from FBI Director James Comey. Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid sent a letter criticizing how he dealt with the email investigation. And while thousands of you have already cast your ballot thanks to early voting, many of you will still make that trip to the ballot box. But a new trend happening at the polls is getting some voters into trouble. We're talking about ballot selfies. So can you snap a picture of your ballot come November 8th? New at 10, Joe Paris looked into it and has our answer.
Some places, taking a selfie with your ballot can get you in real trouble. Well, what about here in Idaho? I went to the state capitol to find out the rules on ballot selfies from Secretary of State Lawrence Denny.
It's perfectly legal. It's not illegal in Idaho.
There you have it. There are no rules against taking a picture with your ballot, but Secretary Denny does say he still wouldn't encourage voters to do it.
We discourage it because, it does take time, and when there are lines at the polling place, we'd rather not have people, holding things up.
In Ada County, though, voters have the green light to snap away.
In the state of Idaho, there is no prohibition on taking selfies with your ballots, and in all honesty, we want to encourage people. Everyone wears the I voted sticker. It's a great opportunity to express that you are voting and to encourage other people to do it.
But Ada County Chief Deputy Clerk Phil McGrain does say there is a fine line between expressing yourself and getting in someone else's way.
So if they see someone who's disruptive to the process or invading someone's privacy, we'll ask them to leave or ask them to step away.
When you get to your polling place, you can basically do whatever you want, like snap a selfie, send a Snapchat,
Or you can even live stream your vote.
but could posting your ballot online make you a target for voting fraud?
Speculation has been made that it could be possible to copy a ballot from a selfie and somehow resubmit the vote. But Secretary Denny says that practice would almost never work in reality.
I think it would be very difficult for somebody to take a picture of your ballot and send it in.
And Chief Deputy McGrain agrees.
There are security markings in the ballot as well. It would be very difficult for someone to replicate that to where it would be read by one of our scanners.
So, selfie away, Idaho, but try not to hold up the line trying to get that perfect picture.
So we did some checking. The Bonneville County Elections Office says it does not allow selfies in the ballot box, but you can take one outside of it. For the thousands of people who are voting early, Firehouse Subs is offering an extra incentive to cast your ballot before November 8th. Firehouse is offering a free medium drink to anyone wearing that I voted sticker, so make sure you grab it. The campaign starts on Tuesday and it will go through Election Day. It is nationwide, so all Firehouse locations will be participating. The company says it's important to exercise our right to vote, and it hopes this will encourage you to do so. The owner of Firehouse Subs in Pocatello says it's also a good way for him to get involved with the community.
I think we're lucky to live in a country in which allows us to have a voice in our candidate in which we choose, and this is a great way for Firehouse Subs to support those people that go out there and are choosing our next president of the United States.
Firehouse Subs has more than 1,000 locations in 44 states. And count on Local News 8 to be your election result headquarters November 8th. Join us at 5 and 6 with a look at how turnouts are going and what's happening around the nation. And then at 10, join Jay and Carol with live election results and myself as I report live from the state capitol in Boise. You can also get up-to-the-minute results on the 8th online. That's at localnews8.com. Now at 10, a new report finds Idaho's law enforcement is some of the most overworked in the nation. According to Safeways.com, those behind the badge in Idaho are the third most overworked officers in the country. Safewise found there are about 483 people to look after for every one cop. The report looked at the number of officers per capita, most crime per officer, and the number of violent and property crimes. Michigan and Nevada have the most overworked law enforcement officers. Another report finds Idaho is amongst the worst for school bullying. Backgroundchecks.org says Idaho has the second highest cases of bullying behind Louisiana. The report said Idaho actually had more bullying than any other state, but knocked it down because that bullying was generally less violent and mostly cyberbullying. The report did find, however, that the bullying did lead to a higher rate of sadness and hopelessness, resulting in student suicide. As Domestic Violence Awareness Month comes to an end, Senator Mike Crapo will be hosting an event at Idaho State University tomorrow. The event's called It Shouldn't Be Scary to Be in a Relationship and will start at 11:30. The event is to give reminders that help is available for those who are affected by domestic violence. National statistics reveal 1 in 4 women face the threat of violence and assault. For teens, that number is 1 in 3. New tonight, Candy Scardino speaks with an Idaho survivor who urges anyone in an abusive relationship to seek help.
Brenda Wan is successful at her job and able to support her household and children who are still living at home. She's in a spot now similar to where she was about 10 years ago, before she met her ex-husband. Brenda met him at church in a whirlwind of a courtship, but after getting married and having 2 more children, things changed. She says he got violent when he was drinking and was physically abusive toward her and some of her children, on top of verbal threats and insults. After finding out about the resources available through the Women's and Children's Alliance, she left for good.
They missed their dad. They didn't necessarily understand everything. My older kids were afraid of him. They were terrified.
Experts say children react differently to such situations, but that early intervention, especially when trauma is involved, can be powerful. Some of the counselors at the WCA use child-centered play therapy to gain insight.
It's amazing to see the ways that they really use their play to communicate what's happening in their lives and in their worlds without a whole lot of direction. So I kind of just reflect back to them what I'm seeing, and you'll have these moments where kids will look at you like, oh, somebody's listening to me, and somebody knows what's going on.
Finances saved up or not, Brenda urges anyone in an abusive relationship to consider reaching out to the WCA to create an exit plan.
It will just keep going. It's a never-ending cycle, and it will go to your children and their children and so on. It's not going to change unless you stop it.
If you are someone in an abusive relationship and need help, the Women and Children's Alliance operates a 24-hour crisis hotline. It's dedicated to victims. You can call the number on your screen. That number is 208-343-7025. Well, there was some reason to celebrate in the Star Valley, Wyoming area this morning. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints celebrated a new temple. For decades, they followed their faith through treacherous conditions to go worship. Local News 8's Esme Carriega shows us how, with the new temple, that doesn't have to happen again. It's a story that's new at 10.
It wasn't unusual for us to be moving in the winter.
Icy bridges, rock slides, and unpredictable weather didn't stop LDS members who live in the Star Valley from following their faith.
The temple presidency in Idaho Falls always commended the Star Valley people for their good reliability, that they would show up and be on the job.
Driving dangerous, windy roads is how Star Valley LDS members get to their temple. Connie Lancaster recounts when tragedy struck on one of those roads.
One accident where I believe it was 3 couples who were attending the temple had an accident and were all killed, and the road has changed since then. It was a very treacherous road around a mountain.
Now that won't be a concern anymore because of the new Star Valley, Wyoming temple that's already attracting many.
Absolutely so thrilled to have this temple so close. Myself, I'm about 4 miles away against the west hills, and I can see the temple out my window.
But the trips weren't all bad.
Wasn't just exclusively the temple trip. It became kind of a opportunity to go to the big city and get a few things that we couldn't get here.
There was some perks.
People enjoy the outing. We get cabin fever up here and we need to get out, and we'd go and we'd take our wives and go to a nice restaurant.
Reporting in Wyoming, I'm Esme Curiega.
Church President Thomas S. Monson announced the temple 5 years ago. Construction for it broke ground last April. For the full story on today's dedication ceremony, visit our website at localnews8.com. Jackson Hole, Wyoming is getting some big screen attention. A new movie about skiing in national parks is now showing. The film Monumental Skiing Our National Parks was filmed in Yellowstone, Yosemite, Glacier, Olympic, and Grand Teton. This is a trailer of the movie provided to us by KGB Productions. The film was produced for the 100th anniversary of the National Park System, which was celebrated earlier this year. While some are thinking skiing, others are already thinking summer. Coming up after your full forecast, preparations already underway for next year's solar eclipse. Plus, a haunted house gone too far? Tonight, the bruises left behind and what the owner is saying about this touchy situation. But first, here's a look at your highs and lows.